Part 2. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Yuze. Chapter 11. Xuanhuan's body swayed, her vision went dark, and she almost fainted. Mother Qin held Xuanhuan with an almost twisted expression. Qin's father's forehead was throbbing with veins, as if the Lion King who had stepped down from the throne was once again exuding a bloodthirsty aura, staring at the prey that had invaded his territory. With a gesture, the butler not far away took the hint and turned around to leave. The new Lion King, Qin Xian, had already lowered his head and took out his mobile phone to send instructions. The Li family has not yet realized the seriousness of the matter. Seeing that the Qin family was determined to muddy the waters, Li Ji couldn't help but stare at Xuanhuan and put pressure on her. Just because of such a trivial matter, you want to quarrel with me? When did you become so petty? Xuanhuan slowly raised her head, her eyes filled with bloodshot eyes of despair, which made Li Ji's heart skip a beat. Why? Xuanhuan only thought it was ridiculous. She thought he couldn't find true love, and because he had to be responsible for the child, she chose to marry her as the next best thing. But now tell her that they have always been together. Then why not divorce? Why are you dragging her? Even put all the blame on her. How could he be so confident? Why? Okay. If you really can't tolerate it, I won't adopt the child. I will send the child back tomorrow. Tonight, Xuanhuan's strange behavior made Li Ji find it difficult to control. After thinking about it for a while, he decided to take a step back. Seeing Li Ji still giving alms, Xuanhuan couldn't help but feel nauseated. The illusion of being confused by that outstanding senior finally faded away, leaving only the disgusting true face. Ji-Fei was also disgusted. She didn't know that Xuanhuan and the others had heard the truth. But after eating such a big deal, the person involved was still kept in the dark. She really couldn't help but want to be exposed. But she couldn't speak out, so she could only save the country through curves. Send the child away? You said before that the child's mother has disappeared. It seems that you know the whereabouts of the child's mother very well. Maybe she has been disconnected. It seems that our family needs to check. What happened to you and Xiao Meng these years? Have you contacted me or have you met me? I can't let my eldest sister become a cuckold and raise your children. Li Ji was startled, his pupils trembled almost undetectably, and his tone finally became a little confused. Creating rumors about me? My mother was right when she said you were uneducated. Qin Xian said instantly, shut up. The two words were not loud, but they were like flying arrows of ice, seriously injuring Li Ji's nerves and leaving him stunned for a moment. If it weren't for the fact that they could hear Ji-Fei's inner voice, they would have exposed this hypocrite on the spot. Ji-Fei sneered, shook her index finger at Li Ji, and then suddenly pointed her slender white finger at the little boy who had been silent. Look at your son's expression before you refute me. Children are not as good at lying as adults. When Ji-Fei told the truth, the child looked panicked. Don't wait for Li Ji's reaction. Qin's mother also quickly assisted and said, child, tell me, have you met your father before? A good child can't lie. Li Ziqiao finally couldn't hold it any longer and pulled Li Ji's sleeve and said, Dad, let's go back, Mom. Li Ji's breath was stagnant, and he opened his sleeves reflexively, but the movement was too big, and he hit Li Ziqiao in the face with his hand. Li Ziqiao was beaten so hard that he fell off the sofa, shocking everyone present. There are very obvious slap marks on her fair and tender face. The scene instantly became noisy. Ji-Fei was even more frightened, and quickly stood up and pulled the child to her side. She did not want to harm the child. The child had already started crying. Xuanhuan was soft-hearted. Seeing that Ji-Fei didn't know how to coax the child, she could only take the child into her arms and pat her gently. Li Ziqiao felt even more sad. He felt that this aunt was really gentle and kind, but his parents wanted to bully this ant. His conscience really couldn't bear it. Finally, he mustered up the courage to say, "My parents have always lived together and only separated occasionally. They said that I was an illegitimate child. Only by tricking my aunt to adopt me can I see the light of day. I don't understand, I really don't understand, but I know this, it's all wrong." After one sentence, you can hear a pin drop. After he finished speaking, he clutched Xuanhuan's sleeves, choked and whispered that he was sorry, and apologized for almost becoming an accomplice in deceiving her. When Xuanhuan heard this, she finally cried. Mother Li grabbed her son in a panic, her face full of confusion. "Son, are you really?" Li Ji's expression had completely changed. He dared to do it, but he didn't dare to be exposed in front of the Qin family. He still said stubbornly, "That's nonsense. I didn't expect this child to be taught like this and actually lie and frame me. He just wants me to be with his mother, so he's just being clever and talking nonsense. Xuanhuan, don't you doubt me too?" Li Ziqiao looked at his lying father in disbelief. If it weren't for Jifei's melon-eating skills, the Qin family would probably have been deceived by Li Ji's indignant performance. But now Li Ji is like a clown. Li Ji couldn't admit easily. In his opinion, everything was just a random guess by Jifei. He had always had a good external image. He had been very careful in the past 9 years and never left any clues. The same goes for the Qin family. If they really knew anything, they would have dealt with him long ago. And the children's words are somewhat believable. Not to mention, Xiao Meng was about to be arranged to go abroad. Even if the Qin family suspected it later and tried to find him, they couldn't find him. Li Zhaizheng was thinking frantically about countermeasures. Xuanhuan suddenly stood up, caught off guard, picked up the half-eaten fruit plate on the table, and threw it at Li Zi's head and face. The fruit plate was quite heavy, and with a loud bang, Li's mother and Li Ziqiao both screamed in fear. Li Ji was instantly covered in blood, and the fruit and utensil fragments were scattered all over his body, and his elegant glasses were also smashed. He held his forehead and looked at the usually gentle woman in shock as she suddenly lost her temper. "You are crazy," Li Ji felt ashamed and angry as if he was provoked by someone of a lower position. "Li Ji, I have never been sorry for you, it is you who are sorry for me. It is you and Xiao Meng who treat me as a fool. You have no conscience." Finally, Xuanhuan shouted out with all her might, and along with the roar, the grievances that had been suppressed for many years also rushed out, and everything seemed to be suddenly clear. Li Ji was really panicked. He knew that he could not suppress Xuanhuan, and could only say in shock, "You, don't wrong me, I." Before Li Ji finished speaking, Qin Xian suddenly threw his mobile phone on the table, and the video call was turned on. A voice came from the phone, "Let me go, who are you? You are trespassing." The screen showed a room, and Xiao Meng, who was wearing home clothes, was being forced to sit on a chair. "It's my mother," Li Ziqiao was anxious. Li Ji's face also changed drastically, and he heard other voices coming from inside. "Boss Qin, we found it. Here are Mr. Li's work information and life traces, as well as some photos. This is where the family of 3 lives," the staff inside said in a business-like manner. At this moment, Li Ji was completely stunned. Before he could react, a whip was pulled out. A bloody mark was directly drawn on Li Ji's face. Li Ji screamed and took a few steps back, but the whip caught up with him, making a crackling sound. It was an equestrian whip, which was given to Qin's father by the housekeeper. After years of derailment, he also wanted Xuanhuan to raise their illegitimate child. His daughter suffered such an insult. Even if Qin's father was well educated, he was so angry that he wanted to kill people. Li Ji was beaten and fell to the ground. Facing the furious Qin's father, he was in a trance and couldn't even think of running away. Li's mother cried and rushed to save her son. Li Ziqiao also rushed over, "Don't hit my dad, don't hit my dad, please, don't hit me." Seeing the child blocking the whip, Qin's father finally stopped. At this time, Li Ji was already covered with unbearable whip marks, and he was throbbing with pain. "Divorce, Li Ji, I want to divorce you," Qin Yan's voice finally came like a tear. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 12. Collect all evidence of Li Ji's cheating. Qin Xian ordered directly to the other end of the phone. Once this was said, it was basically intended to resort to law. The only outcome would be that Li Ji would be kicked out of the house and all his years of hard work would be in vain. Li Ji finally came to his senses and couldn't hold it anymore, shouting, "You can't do this, Qin Yan, it was you who caused everything in the first place, why are you blaming me now? Although I'm with Jiao Meng, I also gave you a name, what else do you want?" Such a shameless statement made the Qin family members present angry. "Did I beg you to give me a name?" Qin Yan was now extremely angry and asked back in disbelief. Li Ji choked, "It was your family that was so powerful that they coerced me invisibly. In that situation, if I didn't marry you, could I still be in the medical field?" Qin Yan was so angry that she cried, "Li Ji, your hypocrisy is really disgusting." Li Ji was stunned. This was the first time Qin Yan scolded him like this. Qin Yan finally woke up, "You're right, Li Ji is a coward who curses his mother as soon as he puts down his bowl and chopsticks." Qin Yan, who was almost incontinent when she heard this, immediately raised her chin firmly and glared at Li Ji fiercely. "You are a gigolo." Li Ji's most taboo name was called out by Qin Yan. "Qin Yan, what did you say?" "I said you are a gigolo, you are a parasite with your mistress, you are shameless, shameless." "Qin Yan, you bitch, who are you talking about? It's obviously you who stole my man and everything from me. You are shameless." Qin Meng, who was on the other side of the video, probably finally understood what happened. She finally cursed when she heard the noise. Qin Yan owed her, she would never forget the disgusting look of her boyfriend sleeping with Qin Yan. They just quarreled and broke up impulsively, and Qin Yan climbed into Li Ji's bed. All this shocked Jiao Meng at that time. After that, she found out that she was pregnant, and she was unwilling to go back to Li Ji, but she heard that Li Ji was forced to get married. She wanted to abort the child, but couldn't bear to do so until. "Why didn't you take it back all these years? Your husband refused to divorce for power, and you are just a mistress who was kept by someone. What right do you have to shout?" Qin Yan was like she had opened a mechanism and fought back sharply. "That's because your family is bullying others and threatening Li Ji's future. Otherwise, I wouldn't have endured it. Even if he doesn't marry me, he will always love me and keep me. Let you, a bitch, stay alone in the empty room. This is my revenge on you." Ji Fei couldn't help complaining when she heard this. It seems that Li Ji is really a Pua master, and this mistress has been fooled so much. Qin Yan sneered, "I am stupid, Jiao Meng, you are also stupid, Li Ji, you know whether our family threatened you at the beginning. Now, you still want to pretend to be a victim? You want to control me on the moral high ground. It is obvious that you chose to climb up to our Qin family for your own future and gave up your so-called true love. Don't throw all the dirty water on me, I can't stand it." This sentence said by Qin Yan was simply trampling on Li Ji's self-esteem repeatedly, as if the most secret and shameful thoughts in his heart were poked, and Li Ji's face was uncontrollably hideous. Jiao Meng immediately said, "Don't slander Li Ji." Qin Yan suddenly felt very funny, and immediately said, "Okay, since you all think so, our Qin family will just make it real. After we divorce, let you know what threats are and what bullying is. This threat from the eldest lady of the Qin family is no joke." Li Ji blurted out, "Qin Yan, how did you become like this?" "As expected, You are panicking now. That means you know that the Qin family had no intention of dealing with you before. Qin Yan's mind finally came to her senses and became flexible. Li Ji was really indisputable now. Looking at Qin Yan's appearance, Li's mother finally realized that this was not the daughter-in-law who had given herself to her son before, and hurriedly tried to pull Qin Yan's hand with tears in her eyes. Yan Yan, Mom will never recognize her. Li Ji is also confused. Give Li Ji another chance, just think of it as Mom begging you. Look at how badly Li Ji is beaten now, it's enough. But she was blocked by Qin's mother like a calf. Mother Li could only pull Li Ji and force him to apologize and promise, speak quickly. Apologize quickly. Do you want to watch our Li family ruined? Li Ji was pressed by Mother Li and almost knelt down. His eyes gradually became flustered. It seemed that he was struggling with himself before he finally spoke. I won't divorce, Yan Yan, I was wrong. I just didn't want to accept it. In fact, I care about you, Li Ji, Xiao Meng went crazy when she heard this. At this point, is it necessary to maintain the illusion? Could it be that what Qin Yan said was true, and she was really deceived by Li Ji? Shut up, without waiting for Xiao Meng to say anything else, Li Ji yelled at her. It's disgusting to be able to bend and stretch, and to know the times. Ji Fei couldn't help but curse. Qin Xian also snorted coldly, breaking the fantasy. The evidence of cheating is solid, Li Ji, you have no choice. So there is no need to act. Li Ji immediately looked at Qin Yan anxiously, but could only see disgusted eyes. The moment Qin Yan turned her head away from him, Li Ji realized that this problem could not be solved. And Xiao Meng finally went crazy because of Li Ji's roar, Li Ji, don't forget the child. Li Ji suddenly seemed to be electrocuted, and shouted in horror, I told you to shut up. You don't want the child in your belly, do you want to die? Child. Xiao Meng is pregnant? This made everyone in the Qin family feel sick. Even Li Ziqiao seemed to have just found out and was dumbfounded. Perhaps it was because of his fierce tone that Xiao Meng wilted. Li Ji's expression changed several times. Finally, he stood up with injuries all over his body, holding the crying Li mother with one hand and Li Ziqiao's arm with the other. I am sorry for Yan Yan. I am willing to divorce. You can retaliate against me in any way you want, but I hope you don't implicate other people. At this moment, he seemed to have changed into a different person. He turned around decisively and quickly and stopped pestering. Are you running so fast because you are afraid that everyone will beat him up again? Ji Fei couldn't help but be suspicious. Ji Fei always felt that Li Ji changed his face too quickly. She thought such a shameless thing would continue to pester him. The Qin family didn't think much about it. At this moment, they wished that the Li family would disappear as soon as possible and didn't want to stay in the same space with them. The three members of the Li family left unsteadily, and only Li Ziqiao secretly looked back at everyone. Qin Yan, who was grieving in the arms of Qin's mother, didn't know why she suddenly raised her eyes and looked at Li Ziqiao. For a moment, her heart seemed to skip a beat. As if noticing Li Ziqiao's behavior, Li Ji, who was holding him, suddenly pulled hard. Li Ziqiao staggered and looked up, and saw Li Ji's ferocious expression. Li Ziqiao's heart shrank instantly. Li Ji retracted his resentful gaze, gritted his teeth secretly, turned his back to the Qin family, but a cruel arc appeared at the corner of his mouth. Dare to humiliate me like this, Qin Yan, Qin family, you will regret it? Li Ji's face flashed with twisted excitement. Seeing the bad guy about to leave, Ji Fei couldn't help but complain, if it wasn't too much bullying, it wouldn't have come back to bite the consequences. It can only be said that justice is fair. Qin Xian glanced at Ji Fei, and a complex look flashed in his eyes. But it's a pity for this child. I guess he will be beaten when he goes back. My conscience hurts a little. How could a scumbag and a bitch give birth to such a child? It's really a good thing that good things come out of bad bamboos, but it's also strange. Why let your child recognize the enemy as the mother, for revenge? Are you willing to do it? What are they thinking? Qin Xian listened to Ji Fei's nagging, but felt that there was no need to worry too much. Why else, in order to make this child eligible to inherit their Qin family's shares and everything in the Li family? If at a certain time, Qin Yan really can't have children, then she can only adopt them. If they are not her own children, Li Ji will definitely not do it. In addition, Qiao Meng is pregnant with another one, so it is reasonable to sacrifice one. Anyway, this child is old enough to know the relationship between his biological mother and father, and in the end, Qin Yan is the only outsider in that family. Such a situation is scary to think about. Fortunately there is Ji Fei. Qin Xian was thinking, and suddenly felt that Ji Fei beside him was like an arrow from a string, rushing towards the three members of the Li family who were about to reach the gate. Ah! The screaming voice frightened the Qin family so much that they almost lost their balance. Ji Fei grabbed Li Ziqiao's arm and kicked Li Ji in the back, as if he was trying to snatch someone away. Li Ziqiao was pulled back in the opposite direction. If Qin Xian hadn't caught him right behind him, he would have almost fallen. Li Ji was in a miserable state. He was kicked unexpectedly. His brain was still thinking about the arrangement for Li Ziqiao, and he couldn't react at all. He fell to the ground with Li's mother. His nose was in close contact with the marble floor, and the screams resounded throughout the manor. But no one cared about them. The Qin family was listening to Ji Fei's inner roar. System, are you sick? You're giving me a melon, and you're also bringing a reversal. It almost happened. Are you blaming me for not asking carefully? It was clearly found that Li Ji wanted to adopt his own son, and I could only think of an illegitimate child. This dog man actually dared to swap the children born to two people at the same time. 9 years later, he asked Qin Yan to adopt him again. How crazy must one be to do such a disgusting thing? I really didn't expect that Li Ziqiao was actually Qin Yan's biological son. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 13. A series of roars swept through the entire Qin family in the hall like a violent storm. The shocking information made everyone's minds go blank, and their gazes were directed towards the 9-year-old boy. Everyone's brains were rumbling at the same time. How is this possible? How is this possible? Qin Yan's brain almost stopped functioning. She didn't dare to think that her child was not dead. Has Li Ji been raised by Qiao Meng's side? Is that her child? Li Ziqiao didn't pay attention to the way other people looked at him. He was horrified by the miserable condition of his father and grandma. He wanted to go to them in a hurry, but Qin Xian grabbed his arm in an instant. Qin Xian was the first to come back to his senses and looked down at that childish face. Ji Fei said, "Is this his nephew?" Qin Yan suddenly gave birth prematurely, and when her family rushed over, they only saw the dead baby. It was a private hospital founded by their family with the support of Li Ji. Everything has room for maneuver. Qin Xian's brows were furrowed and his expression was deep and terrifying. Ji Fei kicked her roughly to stand upright, and when she was in a state of confusion, she saw Li Ji, who had been kicked over by her, holding him up with blood all over his face. He was in so much pain that he couldn't care about any image, so he went crazy and roared, "You!" But suddenly he saw Li Ziqiao being caught by Qin Xian behind Ji Fei, and Qin Xian turned around and looked at him with an almost deadly look. Li Ji felt that all the blood in his body was flowing backwards. Ji Fei forced herself to make an excuse and said, "I felt something was wrong before. Li Ziqiao looks too much like the Qin family. I just saw your mistress in the video. They look nothing like mother and son." Li Ji was so panicked that he stuttered, "You, what are you talking about? It's her again." Again, she was making random guesses. Ji Fei also knew that what he said was too unclear and would probably make the Qin family unhappy. After all, this kind of thing should not be taken lightly, especially for a woman who has lost a child and may never have a child of her own. An empty joy may be fatal. But there is no way, no matter how outrageous it is, I have to say that this matter is too big, and we cannot let the dog man take away the innocent child. Who knows how he will treat his children? Ji Fei could only turn her head and look at Qin Xian like a prayer. Do you feel like? Well, he looks a lot like eldest sister. I don't believe this is a coincidence. A calm voice sounded, and Ji Fei looked up in surprise, and met Qin Xian's firm black eyes. There was no doubt in that look, as if he believed her unconditionally and was on her side, which made Ji Fei stunned. Is there anything wrong with him? Qin Xian's lips twitched, and he turned to look at Li Ji and said, "Our Qin family has doubts about this child's identity and will verify it." Li Ji stared at everything with his mouth open. He was just imagining how to take revenge on the Qin family in the future, but now he took a turn that was completely unexpected. Are you crazy? Li Ziqiao belongs to me and Qiao Meng. Qin Yan's child was. It wasn't until this moment that he realized that he simply couldn't bear the consequences of this being revealed. He was so scared that he even forgot to breathe, let alone retort loudly. Especially after meeting Qin Xian's cold eyes, he couldn't say the rest of his words at all. He understood that no matter how true his sophistry was, it would not change Qin Xian's decision. The ending is decided. And his silence has verified everything from the side. Li Ziqiao was still young and seemed to understand something, but she couldn't figure it out in her head. She instinctively wanted to break away from Qin Xian and find her father. Even if his father has always been cold to him, even if his mother has always been bad to him, aren't those his parents? Suddenly a warm embrace rushed towards me with a hoarse whimper. As soon as Li Ziqiao raised his head, he saw the gentle aunt grabbing his shoulders, her face full of shock. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tears, but they were desperately trying to see him clearly. Li Ziqiao felt like he was infected, and his heart ached with sadness for a moment. "Ah, auntie." Qin Yan looked at Li Ziqiao, as if something was about to come out, and gently stroked Li Ziqiao's cheek with trembling hands. That kind of blood-connected intuition made her unable to say a word in pain, and could only utter unconscious "ah, ah, oh." That was 9 years of life and death. In the end, he fainted on the spot and was held up by the child in a hurry. Qin's mother also rushed over, hugged Li Ziqiao and looked at her, like, my eldest grandson, my eldest grandson. The nephew is like an uncle. A reminder that Qin's mother finally stopped making excuses for me and Shan Shang. This child clearly looks like Qin Xian and Qin Chao when they were young. Qin's father, trembling with anger, walked to Li Ji and dragged him out silently. The housekeeper held down the confused mother Li. Half an hour later, Qin Xian calmly called an ambulance. Under the cover of night, the whole Qin family went to another hospital invested by the Qin family. Qiao Meng was also forcibly taken over. It was only at this moment that Qiao Meng saw Li Ji, who was unconscious with multiple fractures, and Li Ziqiao, who was being protected by the entire Qin family. The paternity test came out quickly. Holding the appraisal report, Qin Yan hugged Li Ziqiao tightly and cried as if she would shed all her tears for a lifetime. Li Ziqiao looked at the embarrassed Qiao Meng blankly, opened her mouth, but did not say "Mom" after all. He could only say dumbly, "Why?" Qiao Meng had already given up and angrily cursed, "This is what you and your son owe us. You little bastard, I should have killed you and let you pay for my son's life." That was not his mother, but the demon who took him away from his biological mother for 9 years. Li Ziqiao finally broke down and cried, and his love for his mother was completely shattered. This tragic life made Ji Fei not feel like eating melons, and he could only watch Xiao Meng's situation. Generally, if Ji Fei wanted to eat melons, he had to know the name and appearance of the person. If he had known Xiao Meng, there might not be a reversal melon. Xiao Meng gave birth to a dead baby and made a mad quarrel with Li Ji. The two agreed that it was Qin Yan who made them go through all this. So when Qin Yan's child was born, Xiao Meng asked Li Ji to compensate her with the child. Ji Fei's evaluation, crazy woman. And Li Ji also agreed out of the protection of his pathetic self-esteem, as if this would make him proud. Ji Fei's evaluation, worse than a dog. But how could Xiao Meng take good care of the child of a love rival? So Li Ziqiao was raised by this couple to be inferior, sensitive, and thin. Ji Fei's comment, poor baby. Until Xiao Meng became pregnant again, they only wanted to love their child wholeheartedly. Keeping Li Ziqiao was too annoying, so they had this vicious idea. Before the Qin family's men came, Xiao Meng was still fantasizing, mocking Qin Yan for not recognizing her own son right in front of her, and raising her as a love rival's child in the future, and forever alienating her. And Li Ziqiao will always stand by her and Li Ji, and when the time is right, everything will be given to their own son. With 2 slaps, the elegant mother Qin ignored any manners and slapped Xiao Meng's face like crazy. Xiao Meng's cheek was swollen and the corner of her mouth was bleeding. Xiao Meng was crazy just now, but now she was stunned when she saw the Qin family really attacking her. When she looked up, she saw Qin's father looking at her coldly. Even if he didn't say a word, the aura he exuded was scary enough. I'm pregnant, you can't hurt me, Xiao Meng finally gave in. Qin Xian stepped forward and said coldly, we won't touch your child, but you will pay the price for everything you have done. If it weren't for the Qin family's obedience to the law, these beasts might have died now. But sometimes, being alive is more terrifying. Especially for these hypocritical beasts. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article feed, placement, below article feed, target. Type, mix. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 14. Because it was too late, everything could only be dealt with later. Li Ziqiao was renamed Qin 11 by Qin's father on the spot, and went back to live with Qin Yan at Qin's house. After arriving home, Qin 11 was already drowsy. No matter how many emotions he had, he was still a growing child and was too tired to hold on. Qin Yan watched the child and was reluctant to leave. Qin's father and mother also came to see their grandson, with loving faces. Finally, Qin Xian also came. Where's Fei? Qin's mother asked. Qin Xian said, go back to the room and rest. The Qin family immediately focused on it, except for the sleeping little Qin 11. What's going on? Can we really hear Fei's voice? Qin's father asked. Qin Xian told him about what happened in the company during the day. Only a few of us can hear it now. Can't you hear it now? Qin's mother asked in confusion. It's a distance problem, just like normal people talking, you can't hear it if you're far away, Qin Xian said. Thanks to her, Zioxi and I were saved this time. How did she know all that? Qin Yan is still in a daze. Everything happened too fast and too unreal, like a dream. If Ji Fei hadn't revealed the truth, she and Qin 11 might never recognize each other in their lives. It's scary to think about it. I think it should be recently that she has acquired the superpower to check everything. It should be an accident that we can hear her inner voice. I suggest to maintain the status quo for the time being. Wait until the third brother and fourth sister come back to see if they can hear it too. No one has a way to deal with such weird things, and can only temporarily remain unchanged. I always feel that Fei has changed Qin Yan's side. When she got married, Ji-fei had just been taken back to the Qin family, so the two had little time to spend together. She only felt that Ji-fei was a little withdrawn. After that, they got married by mistake, and she kept listening to her mother complaining that Qin Xian and Ji-fei had become a pair of resentful couples. Actually, Fei was so eccentric when she was a child. Since her parents passed away and she was troubled by the relatives in the family, she probably had a psychological shadow, so her personality changed a lot. Now she looks like she was when she was a child, Qin's mother suddenly recalled. In short, Fei not only helped you clear the troubles around you, but also saved your elder sister and nephew. Qin's father patted Qin Xian on the shoulder and said, "You must repay her well." Qin's mother thought of what happened today and smiled. Fei is just saying one thing and thinking another. In fact, she is a warm-hearted person. You should bear more of her in normal times. Qin Yan also worriedly said, "Since you promised to get married, don't let her live like me." What they expect is that Qin Xian can open his mind and discover the good of Ji-fei, and their relationship can be improved. If it really doesn't work, it's better to part ways amicably, and don't end up with resentment. You know, they still don't sleep in the same room. Qin Xian didn't think much, just remembered Ji-fei's little money grubber look. "I will give her money." 3 people from the Qin family. Is it possible that she wants you, not money? Can money compare to love? As if he could see the look in the eyes of the 3 people, Qin Xian said, "She likes money. I gave her money for the things that happened during the day, and she was very happy." The 3 people did not comment, thinking that Qin Xian's EQ was not good enough. The next second, Qin Xian suddenly frowned and said, "Forget it, she doesn't know how to manage money, I will help her invest." The 3 people did not understand why, but they were still happy. In their opinion, Qin Xian was willing to worry about Ji-fei. In fact, Qin Xian suddenly remembered Ji-fei's wild ideas. The corner of his mouth twitched. If he really divorced, she would be indispensable. If he did not divorce, he would not be generous enough to give his wife the capital to find a little milk dog. But he was on guard against all kinds of defenses, and it was difficult to guard against thieves in his family. When Qin Xian went back, he planned to talk to Ji-fei about helping her invest. As a result, before he knocked on the door, he heard a screaming voice from inside the house. There is still some difference between the voice and normal speech, and you can tell the difference after listening to it more. "Ah, I'm rich, Qin's father, Qin's mother, and Qin Yan, why are you transferring money to me? Oh, so it was to thank me for accidentally exposing everything. They are all good people. I am also a good person, and good people are rewarded." Adding the previous ones, the total is 10 million. I actually got 10 million in one day. Oh, 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 oh. In the future, even if I divorce Qin Xian and leave the house with nothing, I am not afraid. Little milk dog, little wolf dog, 8-pack ABS, hee hee. Inside the house, Ji-fei was rolling on the bed with his mobile phone in his hand, sending messages to thank him one by one, and then he heard a dull knock on the door. Ji-fei went to open the door in confusion, and saw Qin Xian's tall figure blocking the door, with a strange expression. He lowered his head and looked at people, with black eyes and long eyelashes, and his eyes sank, which would make people feel inexplicably oppressive. "What's wrong?" Ji-fei's heartbeat accelerated. This can't be blamed on Ji-fei. Who can be calm when being stared at by such a cold and noble handsome man? What is he doing here? Ah, I see. You are here to give me a thank you fee. Your capital has increased. Oh yeah. Qin Xian. Give me all the money you have. Ji-fei. I will help you arrange investment. You can make money with money and make sure you don't lose money. Ji-fei. Come to me when you have considered it. After that, Qin Xian went back to his room. Ji-fei was a worker in his previous life. To be honest, It was very tiring. In this life, he just wanted to lie down and do nothing. After crossing over, he checked the original body's account. When he saw the balance, Ji-Fei cried. Not a penny. Although the original body worked in the entertainment industry, he was a hobbyist. Because he had no talent and only a face, he shot more commercials. Most of these advertisements are won by connections, so the original body does not get much money. The elders of the Qin family used to give the original body pocket money, but after getting married, all the expenses of the original body depended on Qin Xian. Although Qin Xian had a stiff relationship with the original body, he never restricted the original body's consumption, and the supplementary card was always open, so the original body never cared about the money. But Ji-Fei was different. She felt insecure when using a man's card. It was safer to keep the money in her own name. Now Ji-Fei only had various transfers received today. It was not her character to live off her savings, so she was still very moved by Qin Xian's suggestion. After all, she, a worker, was definitely not as good at investing as a genius who could run a large group at a young age. After thinking it through, Ji-Fei went to knock on Qin Xian's door. After knocking for a long time, the door was still not opened, and Ji-Fei was impatient and complained in her heart. What's the situation? Didn't you ask me to come to him? At this time, Ji-Fei was in the corridor, and his voice spread far, so that the three people in Qin Yan's room heard it. They all curiously came to the door, opened a gap, and peeked. What's going on? Did Qin Xian finally get it and finally let Ji-Fei enter his room and sleep with him? The three people in the Qin family were very excited. When Ji-Fei was finally angry and wanted to give up, the door opened. In an instant, a slight water vapor wrapped with hormones rushed in, completely suppressing Ji-Fei's anger. Qin Xian was wearing a bathrobe, with wet hair, holding a white towel in one hand to wipe, and maintaining the posture of opening the door with the other hand. The ink-like smudged eyebrows made his eyes look deeper, and the hot steam on his cheeks steamed a little red, but not as red as the lips. The wet man was less rigorous and cold as usual, and more gentle and casual. Because of the slightly forward posture, the collar of the bathrobe that was hurriedly put on opened wider, revealing everything at a glance. The warm white light was reflected by the water marks on the chest, like sparkling water, which further set off the perfect texture lines. Ji-Fei's eyes were wide open, and she almost forgot why she came here. She was still unhappy just now. 1, 2, 3. Qin Xian was looking at Ji-Fei strangely, and heard Ji-Fei sniff, "Damn, these shoulders, these abdominal muscles, this figure is so amazing, I'm going to faint." Qin Xian's cheeks first heated up, and then he stood up straight, took a breath, and didn't tighten his clothes, looking calm. See, 8 abdominal muscles. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article feed, placement, below article feed, target. Type, mix. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 15. The Qin family couldn't help but feel embarrassed when they heard that shameful voice, but they were still very much looking forward to the next development. Is it going to happen tonight? I was just taking a shower and the door was late. Oh, it's okay. Nice, well done. Ji-Fei acted calmly and tried hard to tear her eyes away from the beauty. The corner of Qin Xian's mouth twitched. Have you thought about it? The Qin family members listened nervously. Well, I have 10 million here, you can help me invest. Qin family. Qin Xian nodded. But I need to know, how can you be sure that you can make a profit without losing money? Investments are risky, Ji-Fei said seriously. Qin Xian said, I will bear the loss, and I will completely ensure that there will be no problem with your principal. Ah, Ji Fei was at a loss when faced with such a pie. Qin Xian said directly, "Thank you for helping the family a lot, this is my thank you gift." Ji Fei immediately accepted it well, and she also felt that it was a big help, which was nothing to be modest about. "Then I'll transfer it to you later, huh?" "No, let's invest 9 million. Qin Xianzhen was confused when he heard Ji Fei's heartfelt voice, "Keep 1 million on hand for emergencies." "Can I invest in the type of investment that pays dividends every month?" Ji Fei asked again. "In this way, you will have a fixed income every month, and you can rest easy." Qin Xian frowned slightly, "If you need money, just swipe your card." "I know, but don't I want to feel the joy of harvest every month," Ji Fei said with a smile. "That's weird, that card is in your name. What the president is best at is suspending the card to teach you a lesson. I don't want to offend you one day and get your card suspended and end up penniless." Ji Fei's insecure behavior made Qin Xian's eyes flash. "Okay, I understand. I remember that the balance from your last job has arrived, and I should call you tomorrow. It's probably around 1 million. So the investment is still considered 10 million. What? Really? Am I not a fool and can only pay for advertisements? How can I pay such a high fee?" Ji Fei was shocked. He didn't remember much in his memory. Could it be because the original person didn't pay attention and remembered it wrongly? "It's higher this time," Qin Xian lied calmly, and Ji Fei completely believed it. Her happy laughter echoed in his mind. The three people who overheard looked at each other and felt sorry for Ji Fei. They felt that it was because Qin Xian did not give Ji Fei a sense of security that they had so many thoughts. Forget it, the worst thing they can do is give more red envelopes to Ji Fei in the future, so that the children will feel more secure. Qin Xian suddenly felt a chill on his back, and he always felt that there was some hidden danger. After thinking about it, he said, "If you have extra money in the future, you can continue to give it to me, and I will help you continue to invest." "Qin Xian, you are really, except that you cannot give me a life as a couple, you are perfect." "Qin Xian can't afford a life as a couple?" Overheard the trio pointing. "It would be nice if I could sleep with him once." Qin Xian's ears began to feel hot, and his speechless gaze could no longer focus on Ji Fei's face. The eavesdropping trio secretly cheered. Qin Xian could hear it anyway, maybe Fei Fei's straight ball could break the ice. Speaking of which, has such a superb man ever been succeeded by a woman? Anyway, I definitely haven't. "Qin Xian, did you blow something up again?" The eavesdropping trio all looked helpless. When the incident happened, they were not sure. It was just that so many people knew about it, so they had to let Qin Xian take responsibility. "I am going to rely on you." "Really?" Eavesdropping on the trio, what's going on? Why are you so surprised suddenly? "Qin Xian, why do you have a bad premonition for no reason?" "Qin Xian is still a virgin, wow, 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 wow." "Qin Xian." Eavesdropping on the trio, what virgin? "Our son, second brother, has had girlfriends, been married, and been in the Vanity Fair. Looking back, he is still a virgin in his 28th year." Goose 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 goose. Qin Xian's eyes were wandering, heat began to rise uncontrollably on his face, and he could only stare. What's so funny about this? This is too much. Ji Fei not only laughed exaggeratedly in her heart, but her face was almost suppressed and twisted with laughter. And, Qin Xian's sharp eyes instantly glanced at the room far away in the corridor. He seemed to have heard a few muffled laughs. The eavesdropping trio immediately avoided the gap in the door. It's their fault. They were eavesdropping. This is the family's privacy. They don't want to hear it. It's all an accident. After looking at the sky and the ground for a few seconds, the three of them couldn't help but join in the fun. As soon as they looked over, they saw Qin Xian pulling Ji Fei into the room amidst the laughter. "Eavesdropping trio? Any drama?" He quickly squeezed towards the crack of the door, but with the door closed over there, it was difficult to hear Ji-Fei's inner voice. At this time, Ji-Fei's heartbeat had stopped, and there was only the sound of frightened heartbeat. She looked at Qin Xian, who suddenly pulled her into the room in shock. "What are you doing?" Qin Xian couldn't hear those annoying laughter, and finally found some calmness, and glanced at Ji-Fei with some complaints. "I quickly found a reason and said, write an entrustment agreement for you." Although Ji-Fei felt a little baffled, she was still very satisfied with Qin Xian's efficiency in determining the investment matter quickly. But Qin Xian was very dissatisfied. Although he stopped Ji-Fei from exposing his secret, he couldn't stop someone from whispering in his ears. Unfortunately, he was unable to stop it, so he could only make an agreement quickly with the tips of his ears red. It's really hard to believe that someone with a background like Qin Xian's life is still a child. Even if he is chaste, is his first love so pure? Is it? Not possible. No reason. What about the 8-pack ABS? With a snap, the printed agreement was slapped on the table, stopping Ji-Fei from thinking shamelessly. Ji-Fei stared at the written agreement, and didn't notice Qin Xian's livid face. He went back happily with the agreement, and slept until noon, and was awakened by the information that the final payment had arrived. It was indeed 1 million. As soon as he went downstairs, he saw Qin's mother and Qin Yan talking with Qin 11. When they heard the noise, they all looked up. Awake, Qin's mother smiled kindly. Ji-Fei was a little embarrassed. It seemed that the original body rarely slept in. "I was a little tired yesterday and got up late." Qin's mother and Qin Yan had complicated expressions. Ji-Fei got up late, so they could fantasize as much as they wanted. But at breakfast, when Qin's mother carefully hinted whether to prepare blood-replenishing food for Ji-Fei, Qin Xian's face darkened and said that it was not necessary. They knew it didn't work, so it was a pity. Ji-Fei's late waking had nothing to do with Qin Xian. Seeing everyone's faces, Ji-Fei thought, sure enough, sleeping in is too unruly. Mother Qin came back to her senses and smiled, "You can sleep as long as you want. If you are tired, just sleep a little longer. You young people have different schedules from us." Qin Yan also smiled and said, "I used to get up very late when I was at home." Qin 11, who was standing by, looked at Qin Yan curiously. After all, when he woke up this morning, he saw his mother guarding him, as if she had woken up a long time ago. Qin Yan saw her son looking at her, and suddenly felt a little embarrassed, whispering, "Not now." It was originally a speech to comfort Ji-Fei, and Ji-Fei could naturally feel the good intentions. After going downstairs, Mother Qin asked Auntie to prepare simple food for Ji-Fei to fill her stomach, and they would have lunch together later. Today, the old man and Qin Xian are not coming back to eat, so we will accompany Xiao 11 to eat, Mother Qin said with a smile. Qin Xian rarely came back for lunch, not to mention that Secretary Jin's matter yesterday still needed follow-up. And since Jin's father rarely went out, he naturally wanted to deal with the Li family's affairs personally. Ji-Fei went straight to the sofa and sat down. "Hello," Aunt Qin 11 greeted her obediently, but her eyes were still a little uneasy. It can be clearly felt that Qin 11 is still not used to the new family. Although she has a smile on her face, she is still nervous. After all, they are relatives who have been away for 9 years, and they still need time to adapt. Qin's mother and Qin Yan also saw Qin 11's discomfort, but they couldn't think of a better way. They could only approach with care and care. They couldn't help but feel resentful towards Li Ji and Xiao Meng, and regretful about the various assumptions at the beginning. In this situation, the atmosphere is easy to be awkward. Ji-Fei rolled her eyes. "I found out that Qin 11 likes to play with Rubik's Cube, Lego, and models, but except for the Rubik's Cube, he only tried to play with the others in the store because Xiao Meng said it was expensive, so she didn't buy it for him. In fact, how could I think it was expensive? I just didn't want to waste a penny on Qin 11. Mother Qin and Qin Yan's faces froze instantly. Just now when they asked Qin 11 only answered that he liked the Rubik's Cube. It was probably because he was habitually well behaved and didn't talk about those expensive things. This made the two of them feel even more distressed. Without waiting for Ji-Fei to find a reason to speak out, Mother Qin and Qin Yan tacitly cooperated with Qin Xian and the third brother Qin Chao to lead the Qin family's children to like Lego and models, and there were a lot of them in the family warehouse. Does Xioxi know how to play? Do you want to? I like it, Qin 11 responded immediately. Not only because he really likes it, but more because of the reason that he is like a member of the Qin family, which makes him more confident here. Of course, what Mother Qin and Qin Yan said was true. There are indeed a lot of warehouses, but they wish to make up for the lost 9 years of family affection tenfold, so not only did they let Qin 11 choose from the warehouse, but they also specially asked people to send a lot of new products in succession. When Qin's father and Qin Xian came back in the evening, they were led by the housekeeper to an empty room on the first floor with a smile. There was a set of Lego blocks covering a huge area, and 3 women and a boy were sitting on the floor, playing happily together. That scene made the father and son, who were tired all day, feel warm. After dinner, Qin's father and Qin Xian also joined the game. A week later, many things were settled. Qin's father took drastic measures: divorce, calling the police, and accusing, all arranged. The private hospital of the Li family closed down directly, and Li Ji had to declare bankruptcy due to huge debts. All the Li family members were on the streets, but Li's mother came to make trouble several times, but she was no longer a relative, so naturally she couldn't even break through the door of this property. Qin's father would not give anyone in the Li family the opportunity to see Qin Yan and Qin 11 again. Li Ji and Qiao Meng were both going to jail, but because Qiao Meng was pregnant, Li Ji was tough once and took all the blame, so that Qiao Meng could be acquitted. But Qiao Meng was not moved. It was unknown whether it was because she had no hope for the future or because she felt that Li Ji had deceived her. Li's mother did not keep an eye on her, so Qiao Meng aborted the child and disappeared without a trace. After all, everyone fled when disaster struck. Li Ji, who learned about the situation, went crazy in prison and his sentence was increased. In 10 days, the Li family disappeared in the city. Then Qin 11 was arranged to transfer to another school and everything started again. Of course, before that, the Qin family arranged a family recognition banquet for Qin 11. Looking at the invitation list for the banquet, Ji-Fei expressed regret. Knowing the name, but not the face, otherwise I could check in advance if there is any gossip to eat. Usually the rich family circle has the most gossip. The Qin family members who were discussing the list on the sofa were distracted immediately. There was no way, gossip, who could resist not listening. Recently, they have eaten a lot of gossip around Ji-Fei, even the gossip that the housekeeper uncle is secretly in love with the housekeeper aunt was eaten by them, and they secretly eat CP every day. By the way, can Qin Chao catch up? Didn't he say before that he was filming in the deep mountains and forests and had no signal? Qin's father asked. The third child of the Qin family, Qin Chao, is an actor, and is the hottest star in the entertainment industry now. Qin Xian said, the third brother contacted me, just came out, said he would definitely come back, and he has something important to say. As soon as this was said, the Qin family members quieted down, and their expressions were a little subtle. Ji-Fei looked around curiously, and couldn't help but start the gossip system. So that's it, Qin Chao wants to change the marriage partner. It seems that I have some impression. Originally, he was engaged to the eldest daughter of the Chu family, but Qin Chao has always liked the youngest daughter of the Chu family. It seems that the eldest daughter has a bad reputation, but the youngest daughter is praised by everyone. The Qin family was not surprised to hear this. Qin Chao has been showing it clearly over the years. They don't object to their children choosing to love freely, but they are afraid that Qin Chao's impatience will make the situation ugly. Since Ji Fei has confirmed that Qin Chao really wants to change the engagement when he comes back, they will discuss a suitable way to deal with it after he comes back. As everyone was thinking about it, they heard Ji Fei sigh. Love is really hard to say. Qin Chao almost died when he was a child. It was obviously the eldest daughter of the Chu family who saved his life, but he fell in love with her sister instead of her. Everyone in the Qin family. Wait, what did they hear? Wasn't it the youngest daughter of the Chu family who saved Qin Chao when he was a child? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 16. On the day of the banquet, Qin Xian came back early to prepare. In the room that was specially cleared for the whole family to do styling, Qin Xian saw Ji Fei, who had done her makeup. Today's Ji Fei is particularly different. In the past, she liked to wear heavy makeup and would decorate herself with all the gorgeous objects. She was as gorgeous as the most eye-catching rose in the garden, as if she must get the amazing color in his eyes. But today's Ji Fei is simple and generous, wearing a light and elegant goose yellow long skirt, a pearl necklace, and a waterfall-like long hair that was simply curled a little arc to end. The overall look is light and smart. Seeing him coming, she picked up her skirt and came over briskly. Just now, my mother told us to go out to welcome the guests together. Qin Xian nodded, and saw Ji Fei looking him up and down, and was about to ask questions. Well, he is already very handsome, so he should not need to do styling. Qin Xian's expression was a little unnatural. He didn't know how to do any styling anyway, and he was not the third child. Qin Xian covered up his embarrassment and said, "Let's go." The two were about to leave when they met Qin Yan, who brought Qin 11 in for styling. Qin Yan and Qin 11 were amazed when they saw Ji Fei's appearance. Qin Yan smiled and said, "Look how beautiful your second aunt is." Qin 11 nodded obediently, "Yeah, beautiful." Ji Fei was really embarrassed to be praised. The way to avoid embarrassment was to divert the embarrassment and look down at Qin 11, "Is it me who is beautiful, or your mother who is beautiful?" Qin 11 blushed, "Mom is the most beautiful." Qin Yan touched her son's head with emotion. Perhaps because of the blood relationship, the distance between mother and son has been rapidly shortened these days, and the two are now as good as if they had never missed each other in the past 9 years. As for Li Ji and Xiao Meng, it was because they gave too little love, so Qin 11 accepted it quickly and now only thinks of it occasionally. By the way, Rongrong's field trip is a rare opportunity, and she will definitely not be able to come back, Qin Yan said helplessly. She apologized to me via video before, and also sent a gift to Zioxi. Qin Rong, the fourth daughter of the family, is still in college and is now on the other side of the earth to collect materials and paint. Qin Xian said he knew. Then Qin Xian took Ji Fei to the gate to wait for guests. Guests arrived one after another, and Ji Fei noticed that many people's eyes stayed on her, with little kindness. Most of them were looking, scrutinizing, and hostile. After all, the Qin group's incident was quite a big deal before. Not only did they hold a meeting to formally clarify, but they also dealt with a group of employees, especially Ji Fei's agent, who directly banned them and demanded compensation. This is considered Qin Xian's complete support for his wife, who was in a relationship with him. At the beginning, many people who were watching thought that they would definitely divorce that time. Many rich ladies were waiting to marry the most outstanding and promising heir of this generation, even if it was a second marriage. All kinds of marriage plans are probably in the minds of these guests. It's a pity that I didn't abdicate, and it ended in vain, ha 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 ha. Qin Xian's sword-like eyebrows moved slightly. While listening to Ji-Fei's arrogant voice of gloating, he greeted and entertained the guests without showing it on his face. Soon, the Chu family arrived. However, there were originally 4 people present, but now only 3 people came. Behind the middle-aged couple followed a woman with a dull face. Others came with a smile, but she seemed not very interested in everything around her, and she exuded a cold and incompatible aura. The skirt was mainly black, and her long black hair was straight. There was no decoration on her body. She was completely plain and didn't look like a rich lady at all. "Qin Xian, long time no see, you are getting better and better." Mr. Chu stepped forward and took Qin Xian to greet him warmly. Ms. Chu also smiled and cooperated with the conversation. Like many noble ladies who looked up to the top, her enthusiasm was only for Qin Xian, and she completely ignored Ji-Fei. Ji-Fei didn't care, and looked at them curiously. After facial recognition, it was convenient to eat melons. Her sight swept to the woman behind her. When the woman looked at her, she nodded politely. "Are you Chu Xinyu or Chu Sueki?" Ji-Fei asked bluntly. Although I remembered this face and had probably seen it a few times, I was not familiar with it, so who could tell them apart? After all, they were twins. It was probably the first time someone asked her directly without any reservation. Chu Xinyu was stunned for a moment, and Mr. Chu and Ms. Chu beside her also looked at her in surprise. "I am Chu Xinyu." "Oh, the eldest lady of the Chu family. What about the second lady? Didn't she come with you?" Ji-Fei asked curiously. A trace of sadness flashed across Chu Xinyu's eyes, and her tone sank. "Someone brought her here." Mr. Chu and Ms. Chu seemed to notice that Chu Xinyu's tone was wrong, and they immediately glanced at her unhappily, and then laughed, as if showing off. "My Sueki is filming, and it will definitely be too late for her to come with us, so." Before they finished speaking, a sports car drove in. The guests' cars were all parked outside, and only the Qin family's own cars would drive in. As the car door opened, a pair of long legs stepped out, and a man dressed fashionably walked out, like a walking catwalk model. Taking off his sunglasses, he looked almost 60% like Qin Xian, but less dignified and solemn, and more arrogant and evil. Probably for the sake of being on camera, his figure is thinner than Qin Xian, but he is also a clothes rack. It can only be said that the Qin family has good genes. Because of the charm of the top star, many young guests gathered together to gossip. "Wow! It's Qin Xiao. I just watched his drama recently. He is so handsome. I have become his fan. I will take a photo with him later. It's a pity that he has a boyfriend, otherwise." Alas, I just heard that the person who came with his parents was Qin Xiao's nominal fiancé Chu Xinyu, so what do you think of the person in the passenger seat? There was no need to guess, as Qin Xiao had already opened the door for the passenger seat like a gentleman. Not only that, he also bent over and got into the car, helping a woman out. The woman also had long straight black hair and a face exactly the same as Chu Xinyu's, but she was wearing a white long dress, and her eyebrows were full of tenderness. "Thank you, Brother Qiao. Be careful, I'll help you." There were many guests coming in and out around, and there were basically no secrets in the upper class, so everyone started whispering as if they were watching a good show. The Chu couple saw that their little daughter seemed to be a little uncomfortable, and immediately came up to her nervously, which was really the attitude of treating their beloved treasure. "What's wrong with the baby? Is she injured?" Ms. Chu asked distressedly. "No, I just twisted it when filming. It's actually nothing serious, it's all Brother Qiao, it's too exaggerated," Chu Sueki explained shyly. "Ah, I told you not to be too hard when filming. What if you get hurt? I'll help you." Before Mr. Chu could finish, Ms. Chu elbowed him. Qin Xiao didn't notice and helped him, saying, "Let's go in first. Sueki can't stand." Then several people came over to protect Chu Sueki. Chu Xinyu stayed there like a transparent person, and didn't go forward to care about her sister, nor did she look at her fiancé's overly intimate behavior with her sister. Maybe she's used to it. Ji-fei looked around gossiping, and it wasn't until people came up that they seemed to see Chu Xinyu. A trace of unnaturalness flashed across the faces of the Chu couple. Qin Chao frowned, and felt that Chu Sueki, who was supported by him, seemed to be frightened and tried to push away his support. "Sister, you're here, don't misunderstand, brother Chao went to pick me up because I was injured, there's no other meaning, you, don't be angry." As he spoke, he shrank his body, as if he was very afraid of Chu Xinyu. This changed the look of everyone around. "I've heard that Chu Xinyu often bullies her sister. It seems to be true. Look how scared she is." Qin Chao grabbed Chu Sueki's arm and refused to give in. As if he was deliberately showing his attitude in front of Chu Xinyu, he warned in a low voice, "Don't scare her. This is the Qin family. If you dare to bully Sueki, I won't give you face." Chu Xinyu didn't even look at Qin Chao, but just raised a sneer at the corner of her mouth. "Xinyu, your sister is injured, and you don't know how to care about her. Who are you showing a cold face to?" Mrs. Chu said dissatisfiedly. "Okay, don't get angry in the guest's house. It's embarrassing. Let's go in," Mr. Chu said in a deep voice. Qin Chao no longer cared about Chu Xinyu. He raised his head and signaled to his second brother, and was about to take people in. He didn't see that his second brother's expression showed disapproval. As a result, before he raised his feet, he heard a different voice. Judging from the voice, it should be his second sister-in-law who he didn't like very much. That Ji-fei who pitted his second brother. Damn, did I just go temporarily blind? It happened right in front of me, how come I didn't see anything? Angry, scary, cold-faced, and angry, are they talking about Chu Xinyu? Chu Xinyu didn't seem to exchange even a glance with them from beginning to end. Are you accusing them of everything? Little boy, do you have a lot of question marks? Qin Chao, no, I have a lot of question marks. Is this Ji-fei talking? Why didn't she open her mouth? And what nonsense is she talking about? After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Yuze. Chapter 17. Qin Xian heard Ji-fei's complaints and saw Qin Chao stop and look at him with a look of seeing a ghost. He immediately understood. Without waiting for Qin Chao to speak, Qin Xian said, Chao, stay and entertain the guests with your second brother." Qin Xian's tone was very heavy. Although it was not an order, it instinctively diverted people's attention. "I'll help Sueki in first. She is not mobile." Before Qin Chao finished speaking, the noisy voice appeared again. "This guy is probably a fool. Her father, mother, and sister are all here. It's his turn to help even if he is a boyfriend. He doesn't need to do this. What's more, his current status is so embarrassing." Qin Xian is obviously reminding him that this is inappropriate. Is it possible that the brain is selectively stored when facing the person you love? It should be, otherwise he wouldn't have been blind and brainless to Chu Xinyu just now. Qin Chao was stunned by the crackling output of the scolding. He was ashamed and angry for a moment, and then he angrily said to Ji-fei, "You." Ji-fei didn't understand. Ji-fei thought Qin Chao was saying hello to her, but his tone didn't sound good. However, according to memory, Ji-fei and the hot-tempered third brother did not get along. Qin Chao admired his second brother very much since he was a child. Because of Qin Xian's marriage, Qin Chao was full of malice towards Ji-fei, who was of the same age. So Qin Chao didn't want to protect Ji-fei at all, and even refused to call her second sister-in-law in front of others. It was just because of his upbringing that Qin Chao had never confronted Ji-fei. Qin Chao didn't expect Ji-fei to dare to say that to him. Brother Chao, Chu Sueki, who didn't understand, saw Qin Chao stop. From her perspective, she didn't see that Qin Chao was staring at Jifei, and thought he was looking at Chu Xinyu next to Jifei. Chu Sueki bit her lower lip in grievance, pushed Qin Chao, and said, "Brother Chao, you should stay with me. It's okay for me to be alone." Chu Xinyu had been very quiet, but she couldn't help but speak at this moment. It was the second young Master Qin who asked the third young Master Qin to stay to entertain the guests. "Why did you involve me?" Chu Sueki was choked for a moment, and looked at Chu Xinyu in shock. Then her eyes turned red, as if she was very aggrieved. "What's your attitude? You have to bully your sister to feel comfortable, right? You shouldn't have brought you out." The Chu couple seemed to be aroused by reflex. Qin Chao was stunned, not paying attention to the crying of the girl next to him, and turned his head to meet the cold eyes. Wait, she just called him the third young Master Qin? Didn't she always call him Qin Chao? Qin Chao had an awkward feeling for no reason, and was interrupted by a certain voice. "Ah, I have a bad temper. Although I am not familiar with Chu Xinyu, I really can't stand it. Just now my husband only asked Qin Chao to stay, and didn't mention Chu Xinyu. Do you have any suggestions for this sentence?" Jifei didn't have a tone of accusation, but asked sincerely with an attitude of I don't understand, please advise. Otherwise, how can sincerity be said to be a killer move? After Jifei asked this, everyone present was quiet. The atmosphere became inexplicably weird, and many people reacted. "Yes, why did you suddenly say this? Let Qin Chao stay to entertain guests. It's impossible to let Chu Xinyu stay to entertain guests, so how come Chu Sueki said Qin Chao accompanied Chu Xinyu?" The Chu family came up in one breath, instinctively felt that Jifei was not kind to Chu Sueki, and wanted to refute something. As a result, Qin Xian suddenly said, "Did you misunderstand something? I did only mention my third brother." After speaking, he glanced at Jifei, who was eager to try. "The word my husband just now sounded better than ex-husband brother." The inexplicable tacit understanding between the two made Chu Sueki blush, and she was speechless for a moment. She could only look at Qin Chao with an innocent face. Qin Chao was also confused. "And just now your sister was just correcting your statement. Why did she act as if she was bullying you? What wronged you?" Jifei looked from Chu Sueki to the Chu family. "Your father scolded your sister in public, which is also very difficult for our host family. If there is any conflict, we will help solve it." Chu Sueki, who has always had a smooth life and has been successful in everything, seemed to have fallen into an invisible stumble, and everyone was stunned. The Chu family was also stunned. How could it become like this? They looked at Qin Xian in amazement. Qin Xian asked expressionlessly, "It's our poor hospitality." The Chu family looked embarrassed and subconsciously wanted to get angry at Chu Xinyu, but when they thought of what happened just now, they couldn't get angry. As a result, the next second, Jifei smiled and said to Chu Sueki in a very friendly way, "And what you said just now is wrong. What do you mean by letting Qin Chao accompany Chu Xinyu? It doesn't matter if you are alone. Don't say this casually." The people around were stunned. Does Jifei mean to represent the Qin family to acquiesce that Qin Chao and Chu Sueki are a couple? Let Chu Sueki not say such self-denying words. Chu Sueki also forgot the conflict just now for a moment and looked at Jifei with some expectation. Jifei immediately said earnestly, "Your parents are standing next to you. How can you not see your parents? If not, your sister is here. She will definitely not let you be alone." "Alone, alone," Chu Sueki just said that it doesn't matter if she is alone. This is a bit too. The expressions of the onlookers changed several times. After all, someone in the crowd couldn't help but say, "Isn't this green tea?" I'm not." Chu Sueki finally became anxious, tears suddenly filled her eyes. Just as she was about to say something, Jifei patted her shoulder. He also held down her tear ducts. Ji-Fei said happily, very good, you realize that you are not alone. Chu Sweki's face suddenly turned green, orange, yellow, green and purple. Ha 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 ha, this little green tea's rank is too low, her words are illogical, and it's too easy for others to catch loopholes. However, it may be that people around her have no brains to pamper her, so she thinks she can just say whatever she wants. All your wishes come true, but sorry, my aunt specializes in tea tasting. Qin Chao looked at everything in shock. What happened just now? Ji-Fei was free to make a fuss, and Qin Xian was responsible for ending it. When Chu Sweki was about to perform a loud cry to save everything, Qin Xian directly bowed and made a gesture of invitation to end everything. The Chu family felt as if they were unknown, so they passively led Chu Sweki into the hall in a daze. Chu Xinyu, who was following at the end, glanced at them before leaving. There were specks of light in her eyes, and a dazed expression overflowed from her eyes. It seemed that this was the first time she encountered such a situation, and she was a little at a loss. Only when everyone left did Qin Chao react. What were you doing just now? Xueqi is so innocent. She definitely didn't mean it. She just said the wrong thing. Why do you want her to get off the stage like this? From Qin Chao's point of view, they liked each other, but because of their engagement with Chu Xinyu, they were like true love that was blocked by others. It was understandable that Chu Sweki was occasionally uneasy and made mistakes. So Chu Xinyu, who did nothing, deserves not to be removed from the stage, Ji-Fei asked curiously. Qin Chao was choked. Chu Xinyu often makes Xueqi cry, but if she can't get off stage once, it doesn't matter. Ji-Fei looked at Qin Chao in surprise, and then looked at Qin Xian. Really a biological brother? Qin Xian couldn't help but feel a little angry when he heard Ji-Fei's voice. He was indeed his biological brother. Qin Xian looked at Qin Chao dissatisfied and said, "Ah Chao, our parents never taught us to treat others inappropriately. You can be partial, but you should understand the principle of discussing things as they are." Even though Qin Chao was in his early 20s, his heart trembled when faced with his second brother's scolding instinct. He obeyed the instructions obediently, but his eyes showed dissatisfaction. I find it difficult to understand him. Sure enough, does the Qin family have the silly, sweet, and sweet gene? Green tea tears 3 points, the performance made him cry. Could it be that the Qin family bought those acting awards for him? How could you not see that green tea was acting? Hey, you! Qin Chao finally couldn't help it and wanted to speak. It's over, he likes green tea so much. If he marries green tea in the future, then isn't the Qin family a stage performer every day? Although I'm not afraid, it's annoying to death. I don't want to be a sister-in-law with such a person, or I should find a way to get Qin Xian to divorce me as soon as possible. Qin Chao choked on his words and looked at his brother in astonishment. How could this woman who shamelessly wanted to marry his brother think of divorce? Wait, what exactly did he hear? Qin Xian's mouth twitched and he coughed, interrupting Ji-Fei's random thoughts. Leave this place to me and Akeo. You can go in, Qin Xian said. Ji-Fei nodded immediately. Okay, let's go in and meet someone to eat. Looking at Ji-Fei's cheerful back, Qin Chao pressed his temples with trembling fingers and looked at Qin Xian with question marks in his eyes. Qin Xian didn't make any detours, and took advantage of the fact that there were no guests coming, so he directly revealed Ji-Fei's affairs. Qin Chao stood dumbly for a long time before he said, "Should we hire a psychiatrist for our whole family?" "No, we should hire a master." Qin Xian forced Qin Chao's idea to retreat with a cold look. Qin Chao curled his lips and asked curiously, "So she really knows everything?" "Qin Xian, she can know everything she wants to know now." "Oh, is she the most powerful paparazzi in the entertainment industry?" Qin Chao still remained skeptical. Qin Xian's eyes flashed. "Are you going to talk about changing your engagement partner today?" Qin Chao was stunned and said, "Well, yes, but don't worry, I won't ruin my little nephew's recognition banquet." I told the Chu family and asked them to stay until the end, and our two families will talk privately first. Qin Xian nodded and said he understood. Qin Chao said cautiously, no one objects to it. Are you sure you want Chu Sueki, not Chu Xinyu? Qin Xian said. Chu Xinyu's eyes flashed through Qin Chao's mind, and he felt uncomfortable. But he said, of course, Xueqi is too weak and needs my protection. Chu Xinyu is jealous of her sister and treats Xueqi very badly. I don't like her to be like that. After Qin Chao finished speaking, seeing Qin Xian's unresponsive face, he felt a sense of lack of confidence for some reason. You don't know how much Xueqi has suffered because of the twins' faces. Qin Xian interrupted directly, you are responsible for your own life, just make your decision. Qin Chao choked and snorted angrily. Turning around, through the floor-to-ceiling glass of the living room, she saw Chu Xinyu in a black dress leaning alone in the corner outside the lively crowd, looking down at the wine glass in her hand, wondering what she was thinking. Suddenly, Chu Xinyu looked up and looked outside. Qin Chao subconsciously looked away quickly. Why is your heart beating so fast for no reason even though your engagement is about to be broken off? After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Yuze. Chapter 18. Qin Chao was a little confused. He accompanied his second brother to greet the guests for a while and then slipped away. Qin Xian didn't care about him. After all, he was kept here just to talk about Jifei. On the other side, Chu Xinyu watched her parents constantly praise Chu Sueki in the social circle and completely ignore her. She had no feelings for a long time. But there was always an uncomfortable gaze on her. She looked around, but there were too many people and she couldn't find anyone. She could only leave the place and go to the bathroom to make a transition. The Qin family arranged for guests to use it at the end of the corridor, with men and women separated. Chu Xinyu was about to enter the women's restroom when a huge push came from behind and pushed her violently into the restroom. Chu Xinyu was frightened and screamed briefly, but her mouth was covered. After a while, Chu Xinyu was pressed against the bathroom wall by a man. Only now did Chu Xinyu see the person clearly. He seemed to be a young man from a wealthy family. She had met him a few times, but she didn't know him. Chu Xinyu looked at the visitor angrily. The man was irritated by her look and reached out to pull her skirt. Bitch, you're pretending to be with me, right? I'm going to let you know today that if you offend me, it doesn't matter who your fiancé is, I will still do it. Chu Xinyu heard the sound of her skirt being torn. She didn't expect that she would be in such a situation. Her brain was in a blur and she couldn't scream. Her eyes were red and she could only struggle desperately. Chu Xinyu cried when she felt the other person's breath on her neck. In desperation, there was a bang and the door was pushed open with great force. Damn it, you're looking for death. In an instant, Chu Xinyu felt the force oppressing her loosen. Chu Xinyu fell to the ground in embarrassment, looking up helplessly. Qin Chao was seen pinching the back of the man's neck, with an angry face, and punched the man, spinning the man around in a circle. When Qin Chao turned to look at Chu Xinyu, he saw that the hem of her skirt was torn, exposing her white thighs. He quickly looked away and said, "Take care of it yourself." After speaking, he threw his coat towards Chu Xinyu, dragging the man out of the bathroom. Qin Chao was so angry that his fists clenched and an unknown fire kept surging. He was quite rational and didn't make a fuss. He dragged the person to an unoccupied backyard and beat him to the ground. He stepped forward and kicked him several times. When others came to their senses, they quickly shouted, "Qin Chao, you are sick, and you actually defended her. Didn't you get involved with her sister? You don't recognize her as your fiancé. Why don't you come here to catch her?" Qin Chao's face turned dark instantly. No matter who she is, this can't happen to our Qin family. If she doesn't want to, You still want to force her? Damn it, you know what the heck, that's a couple conflict between us, a couple's interest. Qin Chao was shocked for a moment and was so frightened on the outside that he was tender on the inside. What did you say? The man got up from the ground and said with a ferocious smile, I didn't cuckold you, it was this bitch who took the initiative to seduce me into bed. As a result, she dumped me after 3 months of our relationship. Can't I come up with an explanation? Qin Chao's expression suddenly changed, and he instinctively raised his hand to strangle the man's neck. Say it again. The man immediately became angry. What the hell, can't others want the woman you don't want? Why are you acting jealous for me? Qin Chao stared angrily and was about to take action in an instant, but was stopped by the butler who suddenly appeared. Ah, my third young master, how can you hit a guest? Please tell me slowly if you have anything to do. The housekeeper quickly separated the two people, seeming to realize that Qin Chao was really angry, and quickly pulled the trouble-making man away. Third young master, go back and entertain the guests quickly. Everyone is here, and the second young master is looking for you. Qin Chao froze on the spot, his emotions tumbling. When he came to his senses, he looked back and saw that Chu Xinyu was holding his clothes with a pale face in a daze. Qin Chao had a gloomy face and was about to pass her and leave. Chu Xinyu suddenly said, It's not me. Qin Chao looked over and saw that Chu Xinyu seemed to have mustered up the courage to look at him as if she was dead, and said, It's Chu Sweki, it must be her again, and it's her who caused this. Chu Xinyu, Qin Chao shouted. Chu Xinyu was stunned. When she saw Qin Chao's eyes clearly, it was like a bucket of cold water being poured down on her. Qin Chao said sarcastically, Forget the past few times, you want to blame Xueqi for such an outrageous thing. The blood on Chu Xinyu's face gradually faded, and her eyes gradually lost their luster. She wanted to say that those things before were not her, but she couldn't say. Qin Chao sneered and said, Thankfully Xueqi has always felt unworthy of you because of our affairs, and to respect the marriage contract, we have never officially dated. Now I feel that it is really not worth it. Chu Xinyu, I don't care if you like me or not, but ever since Xueqi risked her life to save me when I was a child, she is the only one in my heart, so, we have broken off the engagement, and the only person I want to marry is Chu Xueqi. The light in Chu Xinyu's eyes disappeared completely, and the clothes she held in her hands fell to the ground. Although I had known that such a day would come, it still broke my heart. So you know I like you, Chu Xinyu said suddenly. The Qin dynasty no longer looked at Chu Xinyu. But Chu Xinyu smiled bitterly and said, Don't worry, it won't happen again. I promise to terminate the engagement. Sure enough, except for Grandma, all the parents in this world, including the little boy who said he would marry her and protect her forever, would only believe in Chu Xueqi and choose Chu Xueqi. When Qin Chao heard Chu Xinyu's answer, his heart still felt weird, but he couldn't help but said, As long as you are willing to cooperate, I'm warning you, if you do harm to Xueqi again in the future, I won't care. Tisk, 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 this is the rhythm of a crematorium. A sudden voice interrupted Qin Chao's words. Qin Chao was not used to hearing Ji Fei's inner voice, so he instinctively looked in the direction of the voice. Ji Fei and Qin Xian were seen standing in the corridor behind Chu Xinyu. The two seemed to have come together to find someone. Don't wait for Qin Chao to speak. Qin Xian frowned and said, What happened? Why are you making trouble here? Didn't you agree to deal with this problem later? Qin Xian and Ji Fei arrived late. They only heard Qin Chao and Chu Xinyu clamoring to terminate the engagement, and had no idea what happened before. Qin Chao frowned, but still didn't say anything about what happened in the bathroom just now. After all, it was too bad for his reputation. It's nothing, Qin Chao said angrily. Qin Xian glanced over and naturally noticed that Chu Xinyu's skirt was broken. Although it was not exposed, it was indecent. He lowered his head and lowered his eyes, and whispered to Jifei, "Take her up to change clothes." Jifei also noticed and nodded. When Jifei came over to take Chu Xinyu away, seeing Chu Xinyu's numb expression, Jifei couldn't help but give Qin Chao a look. Qin Chao was immediately offended and wanted to ask her what she was looking at. As a result, I just said that Chu Sweki has been in my heart since she saved him. Should I find a way to tell this fool that he recognized the wrong savior, it was Chu Xinyu who saved him in the first place, not Chu Sweki. Looking at his dead look, I don't want to tell him that he made a mistake and he deserves it. When Qin Chao heard this, his mind went blank for a moment, and then he felt annoyed as if his beautiful memories were being played with. He opened his mouth and was about to roar at Jifei, taking in all his breath. Then I heard Qin Xian say coldly, "Qin Chao, shut up." Qin Chao froze and looked at Qin Xian in disbelief. Jifei didn't know why, so she left with Chu Xinyu, who no longer cared about other things. After the two left, Qin Chao finally couldn't help but angrily pointed in the direction Jifei left and said, "Second brother. Did you hear?" Qin Xian frowned, "You said you wanted to marry Chu Sweki. If the person who saved you when you were young was Chu Xinyu instead of Chu Sweki, would you have made the same decision?" Qin Chao's eyes widened in disbelief, thinking that he was hallucinating, but no matter how hallucinating he was, he shouldn't have heard such outrageous words. "Second brother, Jifei is crazy, are you going crazy too?" Qin Xian just looked at him quietly and said nothing. Seeing that Qin Xian's expression didn't look like he was joking, Qin Chao couldn't hold back any longer. "I am the person involved, how can I still not know who saved me? Moreover, the Chu family, Xueqi and Chu Xinyu all know that it was Xueqi who saved me." Not even Chu Xinyu refuted. How could this be wrong? Qin Chao thought it was ridiculous. It was because they knew Qin Chao would say this that the Qin family did not immediately inform Qin Chao about admitting their wrong savior. The Qin family completely believed Jifei's statement. That must be the truth. But the matter is too old to be verified, unless the person involved overturns everything himself. So I thought of finishing today's banquet first, waiting for Qin Chao to mention the engagement, and then bring this matter up and let Qin Chao make his own decision. In Qin Xian's opinion, no matter how much weight this illusion holds in his younger brother's heart, at least he should not decide on his significant other with the illusion. I just didn't expect it to break out in advance. Qin Chao's emotions were about to explode, and he suddenly said indiscriminately, "Could it be that Chu Xinyu is unwilling to accept it and wants to pretend to take the kindness of saving me in the first place? Do you think I will choose her like this? Haha, it's impossible. Don't be so sentimental. It's just a secret that your sister-in-law knows. As for whether it was a mistake, we can ask in person at that time, but you have to think carefully about who you will choose if you make a mistake," Qin Xian said directly. "What I like is Xueqi's innocence and kindness. Even if there is no life-saving grace, I will still choose Xueqi." Qin Xian frowned. He didn't know who Chu Xinyu was, but Chu Sweki was definitely not a kind person. "It's so annoying that my brother is blind." Suddenly I felt that what Jifei said made sense. He made a mistake, he deserves it. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbspeed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Yuze. Chapter 19. When Chu Xinyu came out after changing her clothes, Jifei wanted to say something but didn't know how to start. "I just read Chu Xinyu's experience through the gossip system, which really made Jifei feel upset. Jifei had no family since she was a child, and she felt that she was already very miserable. Unexpectedly, Chu Xinyu had both parents and was from a wealthy family, but she lived a more miserable life than her, an orphan. They were obviously twins, but because Chu Sueki was born with a weak body and was sick, the Chu couple had to take the children abroad for medical treatment and recuperation. Although Chu Xinyu was also taken there, the couple had limited energy and were always around Chu Sueki, who was often critically ill. Several times, Chu Xinyu was completely forgotten. Although there were servants to take care of her, problems of all sizes inevitably occurred. At that time, it was the grandmother of the Chu family who was in charge. When Grandma Chu heard that her eldest granddaughter was neglected like this, she immediately decided to take the child back and take care of her herself. So Chu Xinyu left her parents since she was a child and was raised by Grandma Chu, so naturally she was not close to her parents. Chu Sueki has been loved since she was a child, even doted on. Her sister's shadow rarely appears around her, so she habitually monopolizes everything. After her body was healed and taken back, she could not tolerate a person who seemed like her clone taking away her things. So Chu Xinyu's miserable life began. It seems that since the family of three came back, Chu Xinyu has never really laughed at home. She is not depressed because she is strong inside and immersed in research and study. The two went downstairs together. Jifei couldn't help but said, "Have you really decided to break up with Qin Xiao?" According to the gossip provided by the system, Chu Xinyu has had Qin Xiao in her eyes and heart since she was 5 years old. Although Jifei has no idea what's good about that arrogant guy. But Chu Xinyu nodded without hesitation this time. She gave up. Jifei thought about it and said, "Well, he doesn't deserve it. You are so outstanding. You can live a happier life away from these bad people." Chu Xinyu was stunned and looked at Jifei in surprise. She didn't expect Jifei to hit the nail on the head. Not only Qin Xiao, but also her father, mother, and sister, she has completely given up, so she plans to find an opportunity to sever ties with her family and stop contacting them. In this life, she only hopes that her life will not be disturbed by Chu Sueki again. "Thank you, I will." Chu Xinyu smiled faintly. When they arrived at the banquet hall, it was the Chu family's turn to congratulate Qin Yan. But the family of three seemed to have forgotten that they had a daughter. The Chu couple supported Chu Sueki on the left and right. "Congratulations on finding Xiaoxi back. My niece has finally gotten what she deserves after all the hard work. Congratulations. Sister Yan, Xiaoxi, congratulations to you. I was so angry when I heard Brother Chao talk about this before. Fortunately, God has eyes and blesses kind people like Sister Yan. By the way, Sueki also brought a gift." The Chu couple tried their best to help Chu Sueki show her face, but because of the lie about her lifesaver, the Qin family felt a little uncomfortable in front of them. "Huh? Where's Xinyu?" Qin's mother asked. The Chu family couple was stunned, as if they just realized that Chu Xinyu was not there. "This girl is too ignorant of the rules. I don't know where she ran off to." Mrs. Chu looked impatient, thinking that Chu Xinyu had lost face for them, and was not happy for others to mention this uncaring daughter. Chu Sueki looked at Qin Xiao not far away. He had been frowning since Qin Xiao came back. Chu Sueki knew him well and knew that he was in a bad mood at the moment. She suspected that Chu Xinyu had shamelessly entangled Qin Xiao and caused a conflict, so she didn't dare to show up now. Thinking of this, Chu Sueki couldn't help but feel proud in her heart, curled her lips, but said in a worried tone, "Or, I'll go find my sister? My sister must be unhappy, I'll go find her and come back." That well-behaved look made Chu Xinyu, who was not present, look so unreasonable. "Our Sueki is good, don't worry about your sister, she always gets angry and throws a tantrum. Your foot injury hasn't healed yet, don't move around." Mr. Chu touched Chu Sueki's head lovingly. As a result, a voice was heard the next second. "Ah, I just took you to change clothes, how come?" Ji-Fei's hesitant voice made everyone look over. Ji-Fei, the host, was accompanying Chu Xinyu. Chu Xinyu's low-key black dress had been changed into a small dress as blue as the sky, which was very suitable for her snow-white skin. Chu Xinyu looked at her relatives who had just arranged her expressionlessly. The scene suddenly became a little awkward. Qin Xian spoke at this time. "The guest's skirt was accidentally wet, and I asked my wife to take the guest to deal with it." "Why didn't you say anything just now?" Qin's mother asked. Qin Xian glanced at the three people of the Chu family and said, "I can't interrupt." This sentence immediately made the three people of the Chu family blush. After all, they were the ones who just convicted Chu Xinyu directly, without giving others a chance to speak. Chu Xueki felt the playful and inquiring eyes around her, and she wished she could dig a hole to bury herself. Why is everything so bad after coming to the Qin family? It's all Chu Xinyu's fault. Chu Xueki stared at Chu Xinyu, who was coming over with dissatisfaction, and could only make up for it. "Sister just went to change clothes, I thought you were angry with me." The Chu family's parents also blamed Chu Xinyu for this embarrassment, and blamed her for changing clothes. But this time, Chu Xinyu stared at Chu Xueki coldly after returning, and the anger in her eyes seemed to be burning out. Chu Xueki's heart trembled, and she thought about it. Could it be that Qin Chao had proposed to Chu Xinyu? That's why Chu Xinyu is so angry now. Chu Xueki almost couldn't suppress the corners of her mouth, but she showed a smug expression to Chu Xinyu. If it wasn't someone else's party, Chu Xinyu probably wouldn't have tolerated it. Chu Xinyu was sure that what happened in the bathroom just now was related to Chu Xueki. She didn't know when she was forced to take the blame for Chu Xueki again. Chu Xinyu suppressed her anger, sat down, and didn't say a word. The Chu family also ignored her and continued to socialize. Qin Chao, who had been distracted before, came back to his senses when he saw Chu Xinyu. Qin Chao's face kept changing, and his brain was even more confused. "Impossible, the person who saved me when I was a child was obviously. Hey, what are the names of Mr. Chu and Mrs. Chu?" Qin Chao turned his head and saw Ji-Fei asking Qin Xian in a low voice. After Qin Xian answered, all of them except Qin 11 sat up straight. Although they were still talking to each other, their eyes were filled with gossip. Their bodies subconsciously leaned towards Ji-Fei. "What is he doing? I was wondering how they could have mistaken their savior." It turned out that the three of them were working together to deceive people. The Qin family also speculated that this was the case, but it was unreasonable. How could Chu Xinyu not know? Qin Chao's face changed again and again, and he secretly glared at Ji-Fei. He wanted to see how Ji-Fei would spread rumors. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Yuze. Chapter 20. So, this is the first time that Chu Xueki has taken something that belongs to Chu Xinyu. Qin Chao's face changed slightly, and his eyes secretly swept over Chu Xinyu. Qin Chao and Chu Xinyu were classmates in China, and the country where the summer camp happened to be was the country where Chu Xueki was being treated. Although Qin Chao was still a child in his teens at that time, he had become Chu Xinyu's fiancé under the agreement of the two grandmothers. Naturally, he had to meet the Chu family by the way. That was the first time Qin Chao saw Chu Xueki, who lived in the ward but was as delicate as a little princess. Because Chu Xueki had seen a handsome little brother like Qin Chao for the first time, and heard that he was her sister's fiancé, he was considered to be her sister's exclusive person, so she clamored to stay with Qin Chao. Jealousy makes people unrecognizable. Obviously, compared to Chu Xinyu, she had already received the perfect love and all the company of her parents, but she still wanted to snatch Chu Xinyu's things, because Chu Xueki felt that if Chu Xinyu was not there, those things should have been hers. Qin Chao paused for breath. "No, Xueki is not that kind of person, she is not." At that time, Chu Sweki was indeed crying in the ward. He just felt that the sick little girl was pitiful and hoped that someone would play with her, and Qin Chao felt very sympathetic to the face that looked like Chu Xinyu. But Ji Fei just said that Chu Sweki had the perfect love and all the company of her parents. What did Chu Xinyu have at that time? She had him, his fiancé. Thinking of this, Qin Chao felt like he was hit by a club. His head was buzzing. Originally, Qin Chao and Chu Xinyu were supposed to participate in the event, because Chu Sweki, who was hospitalized, made a lot of noise and wanted to go play with Qin Chao by herself, and did not allow her sister to go. It was impossible to participate in that event temporarily, so in the end, Chu's parents asked Chu Xinyu to give up participating, and Chu Sweki, who had the same face, replaced her, and asked Qin Chao to take care of her. Qin Chao's face was not very good. He thought it was no big deal at the time, and did not care about Chu Xinyu's thoughts, and agreed to the request of Chu's parents to take care of Chu Sweki on the spot. He naturally thought that Chu Xinyu would definitely give in to her sister, and should have. He didn't remember what Chu Xinyu's expression was at that time. What the Qin family heard was that the elder sister took the initiative to give the sick younger sister the opportunity to play, and they once sighed about the deep sisterly love. Unexpectedly, it was the result of the parents' forced request and the younger sister's exclusion of the elder sister. So, when Qin Chao got into trouble, it should be Chu Sweki who stayed with him. So how did Chu Xinyu become the one who saved him? Qin Chao couldn't figure it out. He still remembered that their camp was in a dense forest, and the staff took them to visit the forest, identify plants, and learn some common sense of survival in the wild. But he was very naughty at the time and took Chu Sweki to act privately. As a result, he accidentally fell down the steep slope and was seriously injured. He only remembered that Chu Sweki was scared and cried loudly on the hillside. When he was drowsy and about to bleed to death, he saw Chu Sweki again. Chu Sweki found him crying and carried him out of the valley, and then met the rescuers. It was Chu Sweki who saved his life. I guess the Chu family parents were speechless. Qin Chao didn't know how to take care of people. It was okay to take Chu Xinyu, who was in good health, and it didn't matter if she jumped up and down. Forget Chu Sweki. After Qin Chao got into trouble, Chu Sweki ran back crying, but fainted because of her weak body. The Chu family parents who were waiting outside rushed her to the hospital. They didn't even know that Qin Chao was in trouble. Qin Chao's pupils shrank. The Chu family couple originally took Chu Xinyu to wait outside the camp, but after picking up their youngest daughter, they forgot that their eldest daughter hadn't gotten on the car yet, and left directly. Chu Xinyu was left outside the camp. Qin Chao was also lucky. Apart from the Qin family, Chu Xinyu was probably the only one in the world who remembered him with all her heart and eyes. She saw that her sister had come out, so Qin Chao could not have not come out, so she went in to look for him. At that time, the activity had not ended yet, and no one knew that Qin Chao had an accident. If Chu Xinyu had not gone back in, by the time everyone found out that something was wrong, Qin Chao would have lost blood and gone into shock. Qin Chao seemed to have been shot in the chest. Even the Qin family members who were eavesdropping were scared. They all glanced at Chu Xinyu not far away with gratitude. The guests who were greeting them began to speculate whether the third young master's marriage was really going to change. Ji Fei was eating melons and continued to watch with relish. The rescuers took action immediately after learning that Qin Chao was missing. Chu Xinyu should not have participated, but she followed secretly. It was also because she recognized the lost items belonging to Qin Chao that she found the unconscious Qin Chao in the valley and carried him out. Chu Xinyu, who was shocked and overworked, developed a high fever on the spot and was sent to the hospital together. Now all the Qin family members were full of questions. So why became Chu Sweki? A little girl went through so much, and she forgot this experience after the fever subsided. Qin Chao thought that he saw Chu Sweki, and asked Chu Sweki the first thing after waking up. The Chu family had an idea and began to lie. In the end, Chu Xinyu thought that her sister was tired and sick again because she saved people, and she was just scared when she had a fever for the staff of the camp. It was just that the little girl who fainted was worried about her friend coming back after she recovered. Everything was flawless, and there was no evidence. It was really too bloody. Qin Xiao's body was stiff, and Ji Fei's words were so real that all his memories seemed to collapse. But he didn't want to believe that what happened for so many years was false. Why did the Chu family's parents have to do this? At that time, their relationship was not as broken as it is now. The Qin family was also puzzled. Their family tradition probably meant that they would never understand the behavior of the Chu family's parents. Ji Fei cursed in his heart for a long time before saying something. It turns out that they wanted to exchange marriage partners at that time, not only because of the childish and selfish snatching behavior of the younger daughter, but because they felt that Chu Xinyu was healthy and could marry anyone, but Chu Sueki was not in good health naturally. She wants to marry a good family, who will not tease her, have the strength to support her recovery, and will not dislike her. The Qin family suddenly realized that after all, there were too few children from wealthy families who did not aim at family marriage like theirs. There are only 2 daughters in the Chu family, and they are destined to have a business marriage. The Chu family's grandma had pestered the Qin family's grandma for several years before they made an engagement. Originally, their family didn't have the habit of making an engagement appointment in advance. When they heard that Grandma Chu was engaged to Chu Xinyu to Qin Xiao, they were extremely dissatisfied. They felt that Grandma Chu was partial and only thought about her eldest granddaughter and not her youngest granddaughter. Grandma Chu immediately scolded them and said, "Anyway, you only think about the little ones and not the big ones. Why don't I think about the big ones while I'm still alive? Why don't you wait until you irresponsible parents think about the big ones again?" "Ah, Grandma, what you said is beautiful." The Qin family sighed in their hearts. Grandma Qin had passed away a long time ago. The Chu family had always wanted to change partners, but they were suppressed by Grandma Chu. Naturally, they would not breach the contract. Until Grandma Chu passed away not long ago, the Chu family's intentions became more and more serious. Obvious. As for their Qin Xiao, the Qin family secretly glanced at Qin Xiao and saw that his face was darkened, and they didn't know whether they believed him or not. After all, the Qin dynasty was a stubborn donkey. Qin Xiao still didn't want to believe it. What does Ji Fei complain about? Is there any evidence for this? Does it mean what Ji Fei says? She has a rich imagination. Obviously the truth about Chu Sueki saving him is more reasonable. Qin Xiao looked at Ji Fei fiercely, inexplicably so angry that he already wanted to lose control and curse. As a result, Qin Xian suddenly blocked his view. Qin Xiao looked at Qin Xian aggrieved and angry. Qin Xian frowned slightly. He really didn't want to care about his stupid brother, but when he listened to Ji Fei's voice just now, he did find an evidence that was not considered evidence. Qin Xian thought for a while, then while the surroundings were still noisy, he whispered, "When you were 10 years old, you were much taller than Qin 11 now." Qin Xiao's mood was interrupted and he looked at his second brother inexplicably. Qin Xian's eyes darkened. "There are probably not many girls who can carry you. A healthy Chu crescent moon. A sickly Chu Sueki. Who could possibly carry him out of the COL?" The blood on Qin Xiao's face faded inch by inch. Maybe it's human potential, the miracle of life, maybe. The faces of Chu Xinyu and Chu Sueki kept flashing in Qin Xiao's mind. Chu Xinyu's hand was broken by the cabinet and she was sweating, but she didn't say a word. Chu Sueki twisted her ankle and her eyes were swollen from crying. When Chu Xinyu was moving experimental equipment, a male classmate approached her and asked to help her, but she refused, even with her thin figure. When Chu Sueki was acting, she could only hold a child on her back for 3 seconds. After that, she would call him to complain that she was tired and asked him to find connections to help her change the scene. The banquet came to an end with melon eating. Someone asked the Chu family to leave together to discuss matters. Mr. Chu said with a smile, "We have an appointment with the Qin family, and we really don't have time today." When everyone heard this, they wanted to stay and join in the fun to see how the engagement would end. But if someone wants to talk privately, it's not easy to force them to stay. Those who were ready to leave were reluctant to leave. But at this moment, someone broke into the living room. "Chu Xinyu, I heard that you are breaking off the engagement. Then I will propose marriage to your Chu family today. I will marry you. You are already mine anyway. I am responsible for you." Chu Xinyu and Qin Chao looked up at the same time and saw the drunk man who had troubled Chu Xinyu in the bathroom before reappearing.